Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us as we explore the path of spiritual awakening. And to begin, we're going to meditate to two songs. I'd like for you to focus on your heart and your third eye, maybe your crown sometimes, to see where the music takes you. And we'll meditate to these two pieces of music by Zazen from the Take a breath. Very good. It's important for you to watch what you focus on, because what you focus on creates your reality, your view of reality, actually. There is, well, I'll just use I may be misusing some of these words, but I'm just going to use it anyway. There is the suchness. There is that thing that's out there that we all share, the common field of creation that all of creation is found in. It's a multidimensional hologram of existence. And we as journeyers through eternity, which is what we are, we're just sailing through eternity here. As we do that, what we look at and what our heart is drawn to creates a view of reality for us individually. And this is something that a lot of people have a difficult time with, is because they think that their view of reality is shared by other people. And they many times surround themselves with friends who have the same, they share a lot of points of view, but not completely, just some. But enough that they think everybody has that point of view. What you focus on, you activate, and that activation comes to you in the level of what you focus on it with. If you're focusing on something and you're coming from hatred or anger, then you have an experience of that through that lens. If you focus on the same thing through wisdom and compassion, seeing the same thing, you have a different view. And everybody has a different view. Nobody sees it like you do. Nobody. Nobody was raised in the family you were raised in. And if they were, they usually came at a different time. And if they actually came in with you as a twin or something, they're still different because the past lives are different. Nobody has your history but you. Nobody has your future but you. You decide it. What you focus on, the universe is complete unconditional love. It will give you whatever you focus on. If you do it from, it just depends on the chakra that you're focusing on. Are you focusing on something from the first chakra or the second, or from the heart? Are you focusing on it from the high heart? Or you focus on eternity and all of this creation from your third eye, where you see different dimensions and different levels of awareness? It just depends on what you're focusing on and how you're doing it. And what is the emotion? What is the feeling behind what's causing you to focus on that particular thing? I wrote it in a book, in my anthology book. I wrote about my experience of meeting this lady at the Mirage for breakfast. I wasn't dating her, she was just a friend. And she came through town and wanted to take me out for breakfast. So if it's a meal, I'm there, I guess. But we walked into this nice restaurant at the Mirage in Las Vegas, where I was living at the time, not the Mirage, but in Las Vegas. And this incredible restaurant. But it was about 10:30 in the morning, and there weren't a lot of people there. So we sat down in this beautiful restaurant, And I looked around, why not look around and see who's there? And we had this nice waiter come up, and he waited on us and he waited on everybody else. There weren't that many people. We only had one waiter, but he took care of everybody very well, very high class, actually. And but over there was an old man all by himself, eating by himself, hunched over his meal, eating all alone. I would expect he was probably in his 80s or maybe older. A very old man. Over here was a young couple who had just gotten married, and they just couldn't keep their hands off of each other. Love was in the air. Hope and beauty and joy and a future was in their aura. I looked over here, and there was this couple that had two small kids. Actually, there was three small kids, and the oldest one was about 5, and the youngest one was a baby. And here they were in this restaurant trying to have a meal, keeping their kids under control, feeding their kids, making sure they're fine. They were completely occupied with the meal. And then there was this other couple right behind me, a man and his wife sitting there, eating, not saying a word. And I saw that the night before they had gambled all of their savings. They had no savings. And they were having a meal. Everyone in that restaurant was having a completely different experience of the suchness of that restaurant. Everyone had the same waiter. They all had a different view of the waiter. The waiter had a different view of everyone too. Everyone was having a unique experience. And the lady across from me was having her experience too, because it was different than mine, because she wasn't even aware of the rest of them. She was just focused on the menu and on talking to me. And everyone was having a completely different experience of the same restaurant. And when you extrapolate that out to everything, you see how unique it is to be you. And how throughout your life, because when you came into this life, you were given certain values. You were given a value on, you were given a language and a sexual orientation, and usually some sort of a religious or political view, or both. And there was a whole structure that was given to you as a child that wasn't given to anybody else. There may be people have a structure very similar to yours, but it wasn't exactly the same. Nobody's the same as you. As a matter of fact, in this whole universe, in all of the created universe, there's not a single thing that's alike. Not even atoms are not the same. They're just slightly different. So when you realize that you are a consciousness, that you're an eternal consciousness going through time and space, creating a view of reality unique to yourself, then you have to ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I experiencing life in such an awful manner? Or why is it I am here? Why, what? Your mind fills up with all kinds of questions. And it's hard to figure it out. People are always telling you what's going on. They'll tell you about Jesus, or they'll tell you about Buddha, or they'll tell you about something. Or maybe they tell you about nothing. The nothing that is everything. About 150 years or so ago, there was a transcendentalist movement that started, and there were a lot of players that were going on at that time. It's about I think 1880s. I'd have to look it up. It's been a long time, but there was Emerson and Thoreau. There was Judge Thomas Troward with the Edinburgh Lectures. There were a lot of things coming up with metaphysics, mental physics. The mental physics is metaphysics. And the idea is they kind of had an epiphany that if you think positive thoughts, you tend to have a positive result. And if you think negative, harmful thoughts, you tend to experience negativity and harm. So they were saying it's very important to align yourself to the highest intentionality, that you're going along a path of higher intentions, of compassion and love and forgiveness and all of these things. By this higher path of intention, you start to experience world differently. If you go with the path of lower intentions, of greed and harm and aggression and all the things we see in the world, then you end up in that world. This last week, we had thousands of people show up and create craziness because they had craziness inside of them. As I was watching this go down this last week with a little coup d'etat we had going on, the person that was watching it with me became extremely upset, started yelling and screaming. And I just laughed. I saw it as a watershed moment. I saw it as a moment that from that time forward, nothing would be the same. Everything changed on that action. But where did you take it? Did you take it low or did you take it high? It's your decision. We make that choice every day. Are you always contemplating what's not going to happen? Are you always thinking about how bad things are or how they could be worse? Is all that you focus on when you think about your body, how it's falling apart, how old it's getting, how wrinkled it's getting, or maybe the sad state of your beard or whatever, if hopefully you're a man thinking that. But whatever, you're creating your view of reality, and your view of reality sets it up inside of you as to how you feel and how you react to others. The view of creation is compared to an archer's arrow. Back in the day, 4,000 years ago, 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, they used arrows, and they would practice with their arrows. And the arrow boy, who would go out there and hopefully stay away from the target that much, he would go there and he would watch, and the archer would let go with his arrow, and it would hit the target. And the arrow boy would run over, and he would see where the arrow landed, and he would say, "You have sinned to the right, or you have sinned to the left, or you have sinned up, or you have sinned down." And then go back, and the guy would let go another arrow. And every once in a while, he would go over and say, "Ah, you hit the center. You hit the mark. You got the mark. You're not sinning anymore." We're told that we were born into sin, and we are. We're born into this limited state of consciousness, where everybody here pretty much misses the mark. Oh, they'll hit it every once in a while. They'll go to church and have an experience, or they'll have an epiphany watching a sunset or something. But generally, we're all missing the mark. We're all putting our intention upon fearful things, harmful things, selfish things. We're not looking at how life should be. And we're having that experience. You want to be happy? The pathway to happiness is selfless service. Just do things for others. Quit worrying about yourself and your own little misery. Do things for others. Help other people. I had my students when I was in Tucson. We're going through a tough time. I invited them to go down to the local hospital where they had newborn babies. and they were looking for baby rockers. These are people who would come in with these newborn babies, some just hours old, and they would hold them and rock them rather than just let them lay in the bed. They would rock these little babies. And in that selfless service of holding that precious thing in your arms, it opened up their hearts. What are you doing to open up your heart? What are you doing to make yourself happier and more available to hitting the mark? Christ knew no sin. That meant that he was enlightened. And he spoke about this a lot. He said, watch what you focus on. Faith is the evidence of things not seen, the substance of things not present. He said, if you don't have faith, nothing happens. You have to believe. And this is where metaphysical and the transcendental movement picked up and started running with it. But it's more than just thoughts and emotion. This is a sincere movement of your soul into another level of experience. It's not just thinking and hoping and praying. It's an actual transient thing up to the next level. Years ago, I was broke. Went through a couple of credit card spirals. It was horrible. I went to school, got my computer science certificate. And a couple of years later, I had my job as a programmer. And I was making more money than I ever made in my life. I changed. You don't move into a new level of awareness by staying where you're at. And if you're comfortable and happy where you're at, you're not going to move to the next level of awareness, because why would you? But there's a divine discontent inside of you. At least I think there is in me. And that divine discontent is always telling me that this life is very transitory, that the things that I hold on here and the people I hold dear to my heart will all be going away one day. I'll be completely alone. It'll either happen when I die, or it might happen that everybody dies ahead of me. But there's going to be a time when I'm alone, when I just make the transit. You can make that transit and still be in the body. It's called awakening, and it's called becoming enlightened. I highly recommend it. It's a good thing. But it requires that you give up your anger and your hatred. It requires that you give up your sense of lack and your sense of scarcity. It requires that you love people that don't love you. It requires that you forgive people who would never forgive you. It requires that you let go of your own feelings about yourself, of the guilt and the shame that you feel about things that you did earlier in life, or maybe just yesterday. And as you become aware of these things and you start to clean up your life, you start to go back and go up to, a man you used to work for, and you walk up to him and you say, when I worked for you, I stole $7. And I want you to forgive me. And I'd also like for you to take $70 as my way of trying to get you to let go of what I did for you, to redeem myself. Didn't give him back the $7 I took. I gave him back 70, because I wanted that line between me and that other part of God to be closed and be totally pure and perfect. I did not want resentment or guilt or shame or anger or prejudice or any of those things between me and another sentient being. In this practice, I'm always imploring all of you to take this new skill of dissolving things into the void and filling that space with love, because in that process, you're perfecting your soul. And I don't care if other people notice it or not. It's you. It's your life. Are you going to take all of that resentment and anger and guilt and shame into your next experience? Why would you want to do that? You think it's going to magically go away on its own? Nope. You have to cure it within yourself. Physician, heal thyself. Don't worry about healing other people until you've healed yourself. There you go. So watch what you focus on. Watch how you react. If there's something that's horrible coming up, just try to think, this is a birth. This is not the end result. This is a birth that's taking place. In the next few months, karmas will be played out all over the world. Some people will have wonderful experiences, depending upon what they focus on. If they're focused on anger and outrage, destruction, revenge, then they're going to have an experience. If they focus on love, selfless service, forgiveness, looking for the highest and the best, if there's any beauty, if there's any virtue, if there's any joy, if it's a good report, think about that. Put your mind into activating that part of reality that you want to have, not what you're afraid of, not what you're fearful of, not what you were told would be correct, but go within your heart, your very heart, and say, what is the truth about me? And what is the truth about this transient experience I'm having here in this body? In a body where I am so limited with my eyes and ears and what I can touch and what I can experience in my heart. I'm just so limited here. And I have amnesia as to my true self. So as I do my spiritual self-discovery and I start seeking that higher part of my nature, that part that's more aligned with that next level of awareness, my life will change. So will yours. So look for the good. Look for the common ground. I was talking to tech support, and I asked the guy, I says, I was listening to your accent. Are you from India? And there was this long pause, fear on the other side. Uh-oh, he's going to cuss me out. And after a pause, says, I was in India a couple of, last year, and it was wonderful. I went to the south and to the north. It was absolutely wonderful. And he says, no, I'm in the Caribbean. And I said, oh my goodness, now I have to go to the Caribbean. It must be really wonderful there. It changed the whole vibe. When I got off the phone, a friend who was there said, you mean they had their information coming from another country? They're a call center from another country instead of putting our people to work? And I says, he's human. He has a family. They're in a third world country. They don't have anything. Why would I not want them to have work? The worst of us is better than their life. It's called having compassion, realizing that it's all God here. And when I push one person or one group of people out through my bigotry or whatever, when I put women into a certain class and I say, this is why women are, or this is how men are, I have divided up the divine spirit and I have lost my way. I'll find my way when I find it in love and compassion. And if you're smart, my friends, you will start forgiving everybody and forgiving yourself. And for a few of you, forgiving God. You actually think God punished you. That's a losing proposition there, friend. You're not a victim, you are a participant. So when something happens to you, how are you participating in it? What's the result of your participation? Is it happiness? Is it joy? Does it have a sense of fulfillment? Or is it just one of those hungry ghosts that kind of satisfies you for a little bit? And then it goes away and you look for something else. Let's go the highway. I was going to meditate to one of my favorite Tangerine Dream songs from the old days. But evidently I'm going to have to download it. It got erased from my iTunes. I don't know how that happened, but I guess I upgraded. But I did find another piece of music that goes for about 30 minutes. And it's one of my favorites. It's by Tangerine Dream also. And this is the Albuquerque album. And I think you're like, this is going to go for about 30 minutes. And what happens, this music is very dynamic. And I want you to imagine the low notes being down in the lower chakras and the high notes in the high chakras and how they're interacting with each other. And let that energy just flow through you as you listen to this music. It will take you to another plane of existence if you let it. I know it does that for me. So without further ado, let's listen to this Albuquerque concert. Let me see here. Get it up here. Play it. Ooh, what's happening here?
Muy buenas noches, queridos amigas y amigos. Por primera vez aquí en Nuevo México pedimos a ustedes dar la bienvenida a nuestros amigos Tangerine Dream.
Namaste.